In this video, we're going to learn how to create an interactive to-do list using Blazor. Now, if you've never used Blazor before, or you're not sure what software you need to install, then please check my previous tutorial, Blazor for Beginners, as that will explain what you need to do. We'll get started by opening Visual Studios, creating a new project, searching for Blazor. We'll select the Blazor WebAssembly app, give the project a name, click Next, keep these settings as they are, and then click Create. Now that we've created a new project using the Blazor WebAssembly template, we'll get started by adding a page to the project. We'll right-click on the Pages folder, we'll click Add, select Razor Component. We'll name it To-Do List, then we'll click Add. The first change we'll want to make is adding a page directive to specify the address of our new page, which will be /to-do list. What we'll need is a list to store all of the items in our to-do list, and for that we'll use the list type. Now each item in the list will be a string or text variable. We'll give the list a name, and we'll initialize it with some default values. For example, mow the lawn and go shopping. Now we need to write some HTML and C# code to display all of the items in our list on the page. First, we'll write the OL tag, which is used for an unordered list. And then next, we need to use a for each loop, which will go through each item in to-do list and display that item on the page. Now, since this is C# code, which is embedded within the HTML tags, we need to start with an @ symbol, then for each string, which we'll name to-do item in our list, which is called to-do list. We want to display it within a list tag, which is li. And then to display the item within the list, we just write @ and then to-do item. This loop will go through each of the items in our list and it will display it on the page. So this variable name is sort of a dummy variable which represents whatever item in the list is currently being iterated through. Let's take a look at the page. And there we can see each of the items from our list is displayed on the page in an ordered list. Next, we want to create the functionality for adding new items to our to-do list. We'll start by creating a text box. Input type text, which will be used to enter the new values for the to-do list. And we'll create a button which has the text add written on it. And when this button is clicked, we want to take whatever text was entered in the text box and add it to our to-do list. To create that functionality, the first thing we need to do is track whatever text has been entered in our text box, and we'll do that by creating a string called new to-do item, which will initialize with an empty value, and then we'll bind that to the text box. Now the bind command means that whenever the value of this text box changes, whatever is written to in the text box will be stored in our string called new to-do item. Equally, if we were to write some C# code which modified the value of new to-do item, that change would be reflected in the text box. Next, we need an onClick event, which we'll call add to-do item. Then we'll create a block of code or method called add to-do item. when this button is clicked, the onClick event specifies that we want this block of code to be called. And in this block of code, we'll take our to-do list and we'll add whatever text is written in the text box, which is stored in our variable. Let's run this code and take a look. Let's try adding an item. We can see that that works, but it would probably be good if whatever text was in the text box is cleared once the item has been added, since it isn't needed anymore. Also, if we clear the value of the text box and press add, we can see that empty values are being added to the list. So that's something we should try and fix next. We can clear the value of the text box as soon as an item has been added to the to-do list by taking the value in our text box and setting it equal to an empty string as soon as the to-do list item has been added. Next, we want to prevent the adding of empty items into our to-do list. And we can do that by writing if, then we use an inbuilt C# function called string dot is null or white space, and we put in the value of whatever is written in the text box. And what this function does, it returns true if the value in the text box is empty, and false if something is written in the text box. So we want it to be equal to false. And then we take the add event and the clearing of the text box and we insert it here. So now, if somebody presses the button to add a new item, this piece of code is called if the value in the text box is not empty, then we add the item to the list and we clear whatever was written in the text box. Let's run it and take a look. We can try adding an item and we can see the value gets cleared immediately. And then if we try to add an empty item, nothing happens. We try to add a couple of spaces. Again, nothing happens. Next, we want to create functionality for deleting items from our to-do list. The way this is done is very similar to the add button and the add to-do item method that we have here. First, we're going to add a button with delete written on it. And we want that button to appear next to every item in the to-do list, which is why we've written it inside the for each loop, right next to the text where the label for each item in the to-do list is written. Then we want to add an onClick event, just like we did with the add to-do item event. This one is written slightly differently because we also need to specify which item in the to-do list it is that we're going to delete. So we'll call this method delete to-do item, and then we'll pass in the item that we want to delete. Then we create a method and this method will be passed in the item that we want to delete. And then we take our to-do list and we remove the item that was passed in. Oh, we've missed a bracket here. Now let's run our application and take a look. We can try adding a new item. And then we can try deleting items from our list. The last thing I want to do is add some style to our to-do list and make it look a little bit nicer. If you watched my previous introduction to Blazor video, you'll know that when you start a new project with the Blazor template, it comes pre-installed with a library called Bootstrap. And Bootstrap has a lot of well-designed CSS classes and HTML components that you can make use of in your projects. We'll go through the Bootstrap documentation and make use of some of these components and classes in our project. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going into the details of CSS and how Bootstrap is constructed, as that is something that is separate to Blazor and should really have its own video. So for now, we'll mostly just be copying and pasting from the documentation to give you a feel for how to use the Bootstrap library. Let's add a nice background to our heading, which says to-do list, and center the text. So we'll go to the Bootstrap documentation, which is at getbootstrap.com. We'll go to the documentation page, and the first thing we want to grab is the alert component. We can see there are a few different alerts you can choose from, depending on the color. We're going to select the primary blue one, which is this one here. We'll copy that into our project. We'll insert the H3 inside the div. We'll format the text a little better, and we'll add the Bootstrap class called text-center, which will center the text. Next, we'll add some style to the input text box and the button. We'll go to the buttons component, and you can see there are a few different buttons depending on what color you want. We're going to take the button primary, and instead of copying the entire button, we'll just copy the class and add that to the button on our page. And just before we change the text box, I also want to grab a section here on block buttons. Now you can grab this div, which will allow any of the buttons and text boxes inside the div to take the full width of the page. So we'll copy this div, we'll copy the whole thing. We'll delete the buttons that were already in the example, and we'll copy our button and text box into the div. Then we want to find the styles for the text box. We'll go to form control, and you can see here we've got the input class here, and we're going to grab this class. We'll paste that here, and then we're going to also add form-control-lg, which is for the larger text boxes. Next, we want to add some formatting to our list. We'll go to list group, and we'll grab the list group class for the OL tag, and we'll add the list group item tag for the LI tags. The next thing I want to do is change the style on our button and add an icon instead of the word delete. So first we'll delete the word delete. We'll add a span. Now Bootstrap comes pre-installed with some icons which you can use in your project. And the base class for that is OI. And then we can go OI-delete, which is for the delete icon. And if you want to find out about the different icons, then you can see them here on the icons page. Next, let's change the color of our button. So we'll use btn as the base class, just like with the add button. Then we use btn-danger because we want it to be red. And then we'll use btn-small because we want it to be a smaller button, because it's going to be on each item in the list. We'll also add a horizontal rule to add some spacing between the inputs and the list. The next thing I want to do is add a nice colorful background behind our to-do list. First, we'll add a div. And then we'll find a nice gradient. So you can see here, I've gone on to cssgradients.io, and we're going to grab this background here. We'll add a style tag. And we'll create a class for our background. And then we'll paste our CSS in. Then we'll take the CSS class that we've just created and add it to our div. Then we'll also add some padding and margin to create some spacing between these components and the background, and also between the background and the rest of the page. And lastly, I want to align this button with the right of each item on the list. So we'll add float-end. Let's run our application and take a look. And there we go. I'm going to end the video there. I hope you found it useful. Please give it a like if you did. I'll be releasing more Blazor and .NET tutorials in the future, so please follow the channel and look out for those. And finally, please feel free to leave a comment if you need any help, and I'll try and get back to you.